Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome. My name is Patrick Holton. I'm the Executive Director of Graduate Business Career Relations. That's Lauren Moy in the back. If you haven't had a chance to meet Lauren yet either, welcome to your first week of class. Hopefully classes are going well so far if you've had them, or if tonight's your first night, hopefully you have a good set of classes ahead of you for both this evening as well as for the rest of the semester. So what we're going to do is talk for a bit about how you can use ChatGPT, other AI sources, both for resume preparation as well as job search itself. Throughout the evening, I'll be talking about some of the tools that we utilize here as well that you'll have access to that you can use to both help build your resume, practice your interview skills, as well as then work on your LinkedIn profile and a number of other things along with it as well. So what we'll do is, I'm not going to kill you with PowerPoint to start off your semester. I only have like 2 or 3 basic slides to use. Then I'm going to go in and utilize the tool to walk you through seeing how you find the tools, how you can utilize them, and show you some of the ins and outs of working with them, as well as then some of the pieces of working with doing some searches for things within things like ChatGPT, as well as I was playing around with Bard a little bit as well. That Bard wasn't really giving me too much different information on the career side than what I was getting from ChatGPT. So I'll probably mainly stay within ChatGPT, but just know a lot of those same parameters, a lot of the same search you can run on any one of those OpenAI pieces or solutions that you might be more comfortable with at this point in time. They're all doing pretty much the same things in this space. So again, these are some of the pieces of what we'll be talking about tonight for you. And one of the big things that you're going to want to do, that you can do your general LinkedIn searches, your general company searches to find out information on what companies are looking for, what skills people are looking for inside of those, both on the job postings that people have out there, as well as then looking up people and their information. And one of the things that you can do, and I'll show you from some of our tools on the Career Hub, which I'm not sure if many of you have had the chance to access yet, how you can access things like Forage, Management Consultant, as well, to build some of the skills and enhance what you're looking to do as you go forward, as well as then what you can do as you enhance your skills. Make sure you're utilizing and putting them onto LinkedIn. So say, for example, if you go out there and get any type of a certification, if you're going through on, like I said, on Forage, you get a certificate of completion from the company. So if you complete that, you're going to want to make sure that you're updating that information both on your resume as well as on your LinkedIn profile as well, because the recruiters and companies are going to be running searches against specific criteria that they're looking for as they're looking to hire people. In many cases, companies are mainly doing things where they're searching on the back end to find people, more so than reading the applications and resumes that are coming into them. Before I came over into the higher ed side, I ran a staffing function for a finance firm. And at that firm, what we did, I hired a lot of quantitative risk folks, a lot of credit market risk managers, and a lot of technology people. And I had a series of Boolean searches that I just kept in a Word document. And anytime I needed to look for a market risk manager or a credit risk manager, I just copied that Boolean search, put it right into the top of the LinkedIn profile, into the LinkedIn search category, ran the search, would identify who the top 50 people were that came up on the score. Out of those top 50 people, I would click a button right next to their name, and I'd shoot them a quick message saying, are you interested in this opportunity or learning more about it? And that's how I hired the vast majority of my positions. I got down to a point where I could run a search to find candidates where it would start off with 3 or 4 million people, and I'd be able to cull that down to a list of 100 people in probably about 45 seconds to a minute, just being able to look by certain criteria that you set. So it's important when you think about it, a lot of people are applying to certain companies where you may have 10,000 applicants. And when I just said that I was looking at 50 of them, right? So 9,950 resumes were never looked at by anyone, because I looked at the top 50, reached out to the top 50, and hoped that I could hire that position out of those 50 people. If it was more than those 50 people, I would maybe go down to 75 people. I rarely had to go beyond 100 candidates to find or fill a role. So that's why all of these pieces of what we're going to talk about tonight are important for you to find those opportunities, because you want to make sure that you get to the top of those lists for you. So that's why it's going to be critical to use different pieces on your resume, making sure that you're using the skills section. Not only are you going to put the skills in there, but you also have to put them into the base of your resume as well, where you've actually worked on it, right? You can't just list a whole bunch of programming languages, a whole bunch of these other things that you have technically, and then not show somewhere else where you've actually utilized it, when you've actually done something with that. Even if it's just doing one of those projects I mentioned on forage, that you're going to be able to do that. The more you look, you're going to be able to find and incorporate keywords. You're going to have to look at too the different pieces when you're looking at your keywords, that different companies use different terminology. So especially in different sectors, you'll see things where people will call project life cycles by different terms. So if you see in the job description where they're referring to everything as project life cycle versus project management, you better make sure that you have the word life cycle inside of your resume in having worked on projects, because otherwise you're not going to go up to the top of the list for it. So you'll want to have a baseline of utilizing both for you. And again, I'll show you some of that through Hiration when we get into there. And then also make sure that you're quantifying everything, right? It's not that you were responsible for doing something, that you just did something. It's how much, how many, what was the outcome of it? If you were in sales, not I beat sales targets, how much did you beat your targets by? How much did you increase revenue by? If you were in roles where you had to cut costs, reduce expenses, talk about how much you were able to reduce. Look at the things that you were able to identify in the way of things such as, say, for example, if you were on a technology side, right, and you were looking at QA or UAT, how were you able to work on refining that, right? How many bugs were you able to catch and fix before things hit the production sites? So you really have to look at and think of all of these different things to talk through and put out there on your resume as you go through. And as I said, I was really only going to show you a couple little slides on there. How many people have seen this screen so far? Okay, so this is when you go into your My Hofstra account, you'll be able to see I believe the easiest way to get to it is either on from the student services section, or some will see it on the front page. It's the Career Hub. If you don't see it anywhere, just type in Career Hub in the search and it brings you to this page. This gives you access to all of our tools that we have available to you to utilize. Navigate the first one. Here in the middle is where you can schedule appointments with us. Lauren and I have appointments 5 days a week, 2 evenings a week that we're available for appointments. So you could just click on there to schedule appointments with us. The AI-based resume feedback is Hiration that we're going to be going into. Handshake on the far side is where, when you're looking for jobs, internships, looking to find out about events like tonight, that if you've gotten an email and that's how you decided to come to the event, great. But you can also look on Handshake and see the whole list of events and opportunities that are going on throughout the semester. Management Consultant is another tool you can utilize to help you build up skills, especially in the way of if you're looking at consultative skills. So problem solving, if you're looking at enhancing your mental math skills, any finance people here that are looking to get into investments. If anyone is, that's something that you're going to want to do, because you're going to get problem solving questions asked by companies and firms in the interview process. And during those things, they're going to ask you mental math-based questions. So they're going to ask you to calculate things and work through problems in your head and out loud to work through them. So Management Consultant is incredible to help you with that. It also helps, there's another whole tool on it that can take you through and help you to build on your skills in the way of Excel and PowerPoint. And it's not just generic, they have the generic PowerPoint, but it's also for things like if you're working on a presentation that's a boardroom style presentation, if it's a large group presentation, if it's a one-on-one sales-based presentation, that you can go on and you can look at those. Anyone that's looking at accounting or consulting, they actually utilize, if you have to create presentations for any part of your hiring process, they actually give you the deck strategies and styles that firms like Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, Bain, McKinsey, Accenture, they give you all of their presentation models. So sometimes during the interview process, the interviewers will say, create this deck for us and come and present it to us. Instead of then just using a generic PowerPoint presentation, isn't it great if you show up with that firm's presentation style, which will lead to the question, well, how'd you get that? Oh, I utilized this tool that I have at school to prepare for this. So it shows that you've used and done a little bit of extra steps in order to work your way through the process for it. Then we have other tools on here. I'm only going to click onto Forage for a second just to show you what that looks like. But again, I'm just going to click on that one for a quick minute just so that you see it and how it operates for you as we were talking about how to build your skills. When you come out here, you can either do a careers, you could look through the interesting careers, or you can take a look by company. You can see that there are a number of different projects that you can work on. So just say, for example, if you want to work on building your data visualization skills and you're looking at consulting, what you can do is take a look at here where everything, why you do this job simulation with them. It tells you the skills specifically that you're going to be able to build while you're working on there. And not only do you work on this, but you will also be sending it forward to, in this case, Tata, which is one of the largest consultancies in the world. Their recruiting team will actually see the project that you create. So this isn't just like a classroom project that you're working on just to learn the skill and have it go nowhere. It actually goes and they utilize this as part of their selection process. There was actually, we had a student who interviewed and was hired by JP Morgan this past spring, that during part of their recruiting process, they actually had him go out onto here and complete one of the forage practices on there. So they look at this because what it enables you to do is when you look at it, what will you learn? It breaks down everything for you, what you're going to learn. So it's essentially the project that you would be getting as either a summer analyst or a first-year analyst to work on. So they're giving you this to work on. So it's better than you having a great resume that you've gone out and built through working with us at Career Services, utilizing everything online and having this great resume, but only being able to tell a great story. This is able to actually see how you can actually work, what you're able to accomplish and what you can get done on there. So this is what you can utilize for this tool. They also tell you how long it takes, that it's generally, this one's 3.5 to 4 hours, 4.5 hours of work. Some of them can be upwards. Pretty much the longest ones I've seen take about 6 hours total of work. And just so you know, if you start one and then you're going to go to submit it, make sure you're ready and have the skills, kind of a little bit of knowledge on it before you go forward with it, because the company sees when you start and how long it takes you to do it. So if you click on, just say I were to go click on this now, leave it sit open until December and then go back, the company's going to see that I had that open for 15 weeks and then decided to come back to it. So if I'm the recruiter and you apply for a position, you take 15 weeks to do this. Do I really think you're serious about my company? Not at all. So I'm not going to even really look at it at that point in time, because you're going to go for the folks that are going through and working on it at a more realistic pace for you. So just keep all of those things in mind for you. And again, I was only going to take a minute or so in here because the biggest piece of what I'm going to be going into and looking at is both on the ChatGPT side as well as Hiration. Has anybody used Hiration yet? Okay, so a few hands have gone up. How do you like it? Has it helped your resume? Okay, good. Glad no one said no, because then I'd have to turn around and walk out now. But so what this tool does for you, for anyone who hasn't been in, and there's a new piece that the students haven't seen yet that we're just launching as a beta project with them this year. So when you would log in, what you would see the first time as you come in here, you'll see the button up here to create a new resume, or you'll see at the bottom, you'll see more of a block. So you have two options from here. First, you select your template that you'd like to use, and I'm just going to pick any one. Then what it's going to do is ask you, do you already have a resume that you want to upload the information? Or if you just want to start over, start from scratch, utilize a template that we've worked on and created. If you do create a new resume, there are actually templates that are here, both for MBA, MS students, experienced MBAs, as well as undergraduates, so that you can actually click on here. And if you were to click on any one of these, what it's going to do for you is provide you with the layout of a resume, as well as put in some helpful information and tips for you to customize and change. And when I say that, to customize and change, you have to change you have to change all of this, right? Because they'll get to know if every student from Hofstra that's looking for an accounting starts sending out the same exact resume with only their name changed at the top and the email address separated. So their analytics can tell all of that. So they'll be able to see if everything starts churning out the same information. So be careful of that. I'm going to go back to a different one that I was using before that you can use, and just to show you through, if you run into a situation where your resume, when you put it in here, if it starts showing that your resume is too long, one of the great pieces to it, you know how if you're working in, say, in Microsoft Word or something, you have to highlight the whole document to change the text sizes, to change your formats and everything. On here, if you just click on the line spacing, it just automatically moves everything. It changes everything for you. It changes your margins. It changes your fonts. You don't have to go through and highlight and change everything. It just makes those edits and changes for you. What you'll also see is it's scoring your resume. Everything from the structure of it, and from structure is the length that's in there, as well as all of the skills that it's showing, what skills you're utilizing, as well as which ones it's using. It's going out and looking and saying, okay, you're a marketing person, so what other skills should you have? So it's going out and essentially going in the background and seeing what other people in marketing are utilizing as skills for it. And it's telling you these 4 critical skills are missing from your resume. So you want to figure out how you can work and get those in there for you. It tells you the 25 that you have that are good. It scores you on your contact info, reverse chronological order, meaning that you have your newest experience first, going back to your oldest experience. Then what it also does for you is it's going to rank and score. It's going to rate and score each and every bullet point that you utilize. So I just highlighted this one bullet point here, right? My score here was an 83. So it's telling me that I'm not quantifying information, right? That was one of the things I talked about. It's really, they don't care that I drafted these reports, that I draft one a couple times, or was I really doing, how much was I doing, and who was it going to? So we'll just say, and right away, it automatically scores you. So as I'm working on it on screen, it's actually saving your resume and it's rescoring and updating and analyzing everything as you're working on it. So it's giving you that feedback on your resume as you work live, real time on there for you. So it's telling you what you might be missing, what you can do. And it's great because all you have to do, you make all your edits in here, it automatically saves it. When you're finished, you can just hit the preview and download. And then you can choose if you want to download it into a Word document or into a PDF file. I suggest, unless the company's asking you to submit a Word document, submit a PDF file. Because if you send a Word document, make sure that you scrub the history out of that Word document. I don't know if anyone's ever used that inspect function. That's important to use. It's in the top left. When you go down and you pick inspect document, it pulls out all the history. And when that's critical is for a cover letter. right? Because how many people use and just make little edits to a cover letter before you send it out, right? You change the company name and the job title. If you don't inspect and pull that out, if the company turns on track changes after you send it, they'll see that you sent, I want to be a summer investment analyst for Morgan Stanley, for Goldman Sachs, for JP Morgan, for Citi, for everyone else. So they're able to then see what you're doing and sending out there. And it'll happen because they'll just open the document, and many of them, they put on those track changes so they can see that type of thing. So it's critical that you're making those types of switches to it. That you're also, but you should also be customizing it to the specific job descriptions that are out there. One of the nicest pieces of this whole tool, outside of this piece here where it's giving you feedback, if you click job match, when you have a job that you're looking to apply to, so I just went out, this is on LinkedIn where you can search for a job, and I'm just pulling essentially the basic pieces of what they're looking for in a position. So they're looking for this marketing specialist. I just paste the position in and I click analyze. Sometimes it's a little quicker than others, but usually it's no more than a minute or so, that it actually is going to look at what skills are on this job posting or job description, and it's looking at and seeing where you match and what you're missing from there. So see, it's a good thing now if I were Gary, right, that I ran this, because it's saying 675, score 75 or higher moves you really up on the list. So I'm a 66%. But when you look at the skills that are missing, this is part of what I was talking about before, that different companies are using different terminologies. So you may have essentially the same thing on here that is here, but it's used a different terminology to explain it. So for example, like I have marketing strategy here, and there was, I believe there was, they use a little bit of a different terminology there. I'm also talking about here, right, that I worked on hard copy brochures, which would be promotional materials. So if I wanted to, I could put, instead of marketing material, this, though, what you do need to do is, if after you make the edits and changes, just on this piece, it doesn't automatically do it. You just have to reanalyze it when you get to the end for it. But it'll rescore you then looking at these critical skills that you're looking for and building in there. So that one change wasn't as large scale. So it only moved it up by 1%. But some of these other ones that are utilized more, like these that they're showing up top, like communications posting, Hootsuite and the like, those are going to show up and raise your score by more because they're up top. So they're the keywords that they're using more and more out of that in that job description. And in many cases, even looking at this resume, that if you're looking at that they were looking at and Gainer, right, they were working here to increase daily website visits, right? So they were looking at things through Instagram and Facebook. So there's a good chance they were using Hootsuite or something like that to actually track what was going on, tracking impressions, tracking clicks that are happening. They just didn't utilize that one terminology for it. So they were using the analytics, they were working with it, but now they know, oh, I have to put that in there in the skills for it. Or if you see something over and over again as you're looking for jobs, if you're applying, how many people feel like you apply to positions and you don't hear back from anyone? Okay, so I see a lot of hands, especially across the back, that are going up for that. A lot of times, because what happens is that they're going in, like I said, I had my things built so that it would show me essentially this type of a score. It would say for this position, here's, and I would have a list of everybody that applied. Almost like think of a spreadsheet that would just pop up on screen. I do a reverse sort and it would score everybody from 100 down to sometimes probably 15-20% that people would score. And all I would look at are those top literally 100 to probably 95 or so, 90 is where I would start looking at candidates for it. The other thing that the applicant tracking systems would do for me is these keywords that I had in my Boolean search, it would have each of them color coordinated, so that when I opened up your resume, it would actually light up the resume and show me all of those keywords essentially highlighted on the page for it. So that's where I was saying that it's important to have and utilize the skills section, but don't just list everything you've ever done in skills or summary and nowhere else, right? Because if it's just listed there as a summary or listed as a skill, but you've never shown me where you've utilized it, right? So that, for example, like Hootsuite, if this was on here as a skill in the key skills or technical skills, I want to see where you used it. What'd you use it for, right? That would be a good fit if someone were saying that I utilized Hootsuite to identify opportunities that raised daily visitors to Facebook and Instagram by 15 and 25%, because that shows that you actually have the skill to utilize the tool and you know enough about that tool to be able to talk about the outcomes associated with it. When I was on the recruiting side, I did a lot with LinkedIn Recruiter when it first came out. So the biggest things that I would talk about in there is that I was able to eliminate some headcount on my recruiting team, because now that I had a computer that could look at 9,000 resumes in a matter of the click of a finger, I didn't really need 4 people to sit there and look through all 9,000 resumes and say, here are the ones you should really be looking at. So I was able to cut costs. I was also able to monetize the savings for it. So we were able to come up with a way to figure out that if we went out to agencies to fill the position, that would be at 30% of the annual salary, that utilizing LinkedIn Recruiter, only if a recruiting firm sent me that same candidate was I able to calculate that. But I was able to show and generate that I was saving, the 1 year, I think it was about 120,000, another year was about $200,000 worth of costs for the firm by utilizing that tool. So those were the things that were critical for me to have out there and put on those for the skills. But so this is one piece. Any questions on this side of Hiration? Yes, it does. This tool can work on across really any type of opportunities. It really works for anyone. One thing that we're working on to build a tool to strengthen the feedback component of it is more for like a medical CV for it. So there's a bit longer. There's a little bit more detail associated with those. So those are ones that we're refining a little bit more. But yes, this works with absolutely any type of career, anything you're looking to go into, especially this piece where you're putting a job description in and getting that side by side. It's really using things on the back end to look at your resume versus that description itself. But that's a great question, but you can use it against anything on there. Now, one of the next pieces I was going to show you within this tool is there's a new piece that we're working on with them, which is an interview practice and preparation tool. How many people have had to do a virtual interview where it was a recorded interview where you sit in front of the screen, right? How many people, everyone to put your hand up, how many people are comfortable doing that? Okay. So now, is it something that you were always comfortable with? Or how many people just as you kind of got used to it? You just, right? You get the more practice, the more you do something, the more comfortable you get with it. So what this tool does is shows you essentially how HireVue and those other tools that companies are using, how it's going to score you for it. So what we have is that we're building out for you that you're able to see and utilize a base set of questions that are out there that the company created that will feed towards specific positions that you may be looking to go for. And then we're also going to build out some basic practice interviews of behavioral questions and other things that'll be out there that you can utilize as well. The nice thing about this practice too is If you don't want anyone else to look at it, they won't see it. As you're practicing, if you're going to meet with me, you're going to meet with Lauren or someone, you can shoot it over to us and say, hey, I answered this question, didn't go too well, and what can I do? So those types of things we can work on for it. I did a practice one just kind of on the spot during when we were actually working on the beta test when they were telling us about it, about how we were going to utilize the tool. And so I did this for just answering, tell me about yourself. And what it does is scores you on a whole host of different pieces here. So it gives you an answer evaluation that it actually goes out. So not only does it have your response when you're talking to the computer, it takes and listens to and records what you say. It goes out to ChatGPT and will come back with at the bottom a refined answer for you. So it's actually telling you, here's what you should really be saying. Watch that you said a couple of the same words over and over again. So it warns you of the words that you're overutilizing. Then it also gives you the suggestions for how you might be able to include some different things. I come from the finance industry in a background where companies really didn't care about what I like to do on the weekends or what I did outside of work. So I never put that in my responses. And now it's kind of a different day and age where people are doing that and asking more about those things. During the interviews, when I was going through, if I was saying, oh, and I like to surf and do this on the weekend, they're like, I don't care. What are you going to do for me Monday to Friday and Saturday if I need you to? So that's why I still can't shake that. And it's just beaten into me over 20 years that I don't change that for it. But you'll see that you have these pieces for it for what went well, what you talked about. And not only does it do that, it also lays out some of the critical pieces of, here it is. So it rates you on your speech. So it looks like at everything from your speech rates. Do you speak too fast? Do you speak too slow? How much do you variate your pitch when you're talking? Do you utilize filler words for it? My public speaking professor would love that I scored that perfectly. My first public speaking course I ever took, I was abysmal. So that was something that came a long way. Another thing that I realized right away, it breaks everything from your alignment on screen. These applicant tracking systems, HireViews and everything, they score you on all of this. So you may have the best response in the world, but if you're not making eye contact, and when you say eye contact, it's not looking at yourself on the screen. You have to get used to the fact that you're looking at the camera on top of the screen. Because if you're looking down the whole time, it doesn't look like you're making eye contact. You have to actually be looking at the camera as you're talking for it. The other thing, and I knew right away that what happened on the center of the screen, when I sit at my desk and I sit in my office, my mouse is on my right-hand side. So I always sit leaning to my right. So that's why I wasn't in the center of the screen. That's why I scored a 1 out of 5 on that, because I know that I always sit and lean in that one direction. So I knew right when that came up that was going to happen. But it's when you're preparing for an interview, then you shift things around, right? I know if I always sit in the same spot and lean in that one direction, if I'm going to be doing an interview, maybe I move the laptop somewhere else so that I'm not in my comfort zone. I switch it a little bit. So I'm looking differently. I'm doing things a little bit differently than normal, because you fall out of that comfort zone for it. Sometimes it's even better, even though you're doing the virtual interviews, don't do them at home. Still come to campus, find a room inside this building, in the library, somewhere to do them. Again, because if you're sitting at the kitchen table, right, you're just going to start looking and thinking of other things you want to be doing, you may need to be doing. I've had horrible interviews doing that over the years, because I was at home and they were phone interviews. I got up, I'd walk around the house, then you realize you're looking at something else, you're not even paying attention to what's going on the phone during the interview. So you really have to focus and make sure that you're in a spot where you can be successful for it. But so these tools are great, and we're doing this through a beta test with them as we're helping them to refine this, to bring it out to market to universities essentially across the world over the coming year. So this is a great tool to utilize. Again, it gives you the score, it gives you basic averages across on everything. And this is something that we can also help kind of work through with you as well. But it's a great resource. It's a phenomenal tool for you to be able to practice with and to work through on there. Any questions on this piece? Okay. Oh, yes. Yes, it should be. Give us, if it's not detecting, let us know, because we've actually, there were pieces on the resume tool. We've been working, this is our third year working with them on the resume process. And there were some little minor inconsistencies when it was doing searches against different things for scoring. And we worked with them. We provided the feedback. We actually have, well, Catherine has every other week, she actually meets with their developers and they ask us for feedback, for input on what students are seeing in the tool, how they can refine it, what changes they can make. And when we identify those changes, they have done a phenomenal job in getting things, if they're small fixes, out into our interface within 2 to 3 weeks. If it's something a little longer, they let us know if it's going to take something a little longer, but they really utilize the feedback and input we give them. So if anyone is in there and you're having issues, if you're seeing anything, let us know, because we will definitely be going out to them on that to kind of help them refine the tool, because it only makes it better for us as well. So now the only other thing I was going to show for a couple minutes is doing searches. Has anyone utilized ChatGPT at all for job search, for looking at skills that they need to have for industries or anything? What have you used it for? Did you shake your head and use just looking, just to kind of mess around in there? Okay.
I think people build a cover letter by feeding it the information of like what is in my background, what the position is, and it kind of will automatically take recognition that it will fit that job position.
Right. And that it can be good for that, to utilize that. It does have that caveat though, that it's kind of like an 80% accuracy that you have to take a look at. That
tweak it a little bit, but it puts the brunt of the formatting and whatnot, especially making cover letters for like everything you're applying to. You help that out.
right, absolutely, it can. You can utilize it to help with those types of things, especially if you put in your like if you put in different pieces for your, you can put your resume, you copy and paste your resume in there, and then you can say, write me a cover letter for an investment analyst position at JP Morgan. And it'll come back and spit out for you that same type of information for you. But again, you have to make sure that you look at it, you customize it. There is this, what do they call it? They're calling the phenomenon a hallucination, that ChatGPT and OpenAI has a hallucination that goes on every so often. And what that means is, that's why they're saying it's 80% accurate. So if you ask for it to give you a list of skills, don't just take that and post and put those skills, because generally 1 or 2 of those are going to have absolutely nothing to do with what you're asking it for. So that's why you have to be very careful to look at the information, to customize it to what you need to do. Because if you just take it, copy, paste, dump it in there, it has a little disclaimer on the bottom, so you have to be careful when you do the copy and paste that you get rid of the disclaimer off the bottom where it says that, it may not be accurate and different things in there for it, but it can be very, very helpful for you. So for example, there's one here that you can utilize for if you're looking for an internship title within a certain major, right? So sometimes you're sitting down and you're like, I just can't figure out what the job titles are in this role. So you can ask it, you could just type in the search. And again, I've tested it in Bard as well, works the same. So if you have one that you're more comfortable with than the other, feel free to use either or. I'm just using this as the tool to kind of show through on there. But what internship title should I look for? And this one I said is if I major in music business, it comes down with a whole host of different ones that are on there for you that could potentially be an option for you. Then if you're looking for it, you can also put in, what are the skills required for that major, right? So it's going to tell you all of the different things that you need to do and to look for in the skills that you need to build for it. Luckily, I kept this one specifically because it didn't have one of the hallucinations in there. It kind of everything matched for it. So that one, I kept it in there for it, even though in the going down the line, I might use one that has like some of that goofy stuff that just kind of gets placed in the middle when it loses its train of thought. But so you can use this for everything from helping with the resume, helping with cover letters. But when you do that, you also take it and put it into Hiration, because Hiration is doing the same thing, both resumes, cover letters. It will also, Hiration can work on your LinkedIn profile too. The only thing is you have to save your LinkedIn profile as a PDF file, and then you just upload it as the PDF file. Since Microsoft owns that tool, they don't allow anyone else to interface with that tool. So eventually, once Microsoft comes up with a product that can do the same thing, I'm sure they'll be selling that and allowing you to pay to have that work for you. So if anyone comes up with that and can pitch it to them, good luck to you. That's going to be a nice multi-million-dollar deal for you if you can figure that out. And just give me my cut because I'm bringing it up as an idea for you today while you're here together. So these are the main things I was going to talk about with you. I could go on forever and ever with these, but hopefully these give you some ideas and some help for ways that you can utilize all of these different tools and technologies that we have. And if you have questions or anything, more than happy to stay around and answer questions for a while.